The gun pressed against Sophia's temple felt cold as winter steel. She'd taken this job to escape poverty, not to end up on her knees in a warehouse basement, surrounded by men who smiled like wolves. 6 months ago, she was drowning in debt, invisible to the world. Then Dante Moretti walked into her life with an offer that seemed too good to be true. Now she understood why. The Mafia boss who'd promised to save her had painted a target on her back instead. And the secret growing inside her would either be her salvation or her death sentence. If you want to see how Sophia survives this nightmare and transforms from invisible waitress to the one woman powerful enough to change a monster, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The rain came down like punishment. Sofia Castellano pressed her forehead against the restaurant's back door, listening to the downpour hammer the alley beyond. 3 a.m. The shift had ended 40 minutes ago, but she'd stayed to scrub the grease traps because Miguel had asked, and Miguel was the only manager who didn't treat her like furniture. Her feet screamed in her worn sneakers. Her lower back felt like someone had taken a hammer to her spine. She smelled like fryer oil and desperation. Just another Tuesday. She pushed through the door into the rain, pulling her threadbare jacket tight. The fabric was so thin it might as well have been tissue paper. Water soaked through immediately, plastering her dark hair to her skull, running down her neck in icy rivulets. She didn't run. What was the point? She was already destroyed. The alley stretched before her, narrow and dark, hemmed in by brick buildings that leaned together like drunks. Dumpsters overflowed with garbage bags that the rain had split open, spilling their guts across the pavement. The smell was apocalyptic. Rotting food, piss, something sweet and chemical that made her gag. This was New York's hidden face, the one tourists never saw, the one people like Sophia lived in. She'd walked this alley 1,000 times. She knew every pothole, every broken bottle, every shadow that might hide a rat or something worse. But tonight felt different. The rain was too heavy, the darkness too complete, and somewhere behind her she heard footsteps. Sophia's heart kicked into a higher gear. She didn't turn around. Rule number 1 of surviving in this neighborhood: never show fear. Never let them know you've noticed. She kept walking, her pace steady, her breathing controlled. The footsteps matched her rhythm. Closer now. "Hey, sweetheart," the voice came from her left. Sophia's head snapped toward the sound. A man stepped out from behind a dumpster, his face hidden in shadow, but his intentions clear in his posture. He was big, broad-shouldered, blocking half the alley. "Not interested," Sophia said. Her voice came out steady. "Good." She kept walking. "Didn't ask if you were interested." Another man appeared on her right, this one smaller but meaner looking, with a face like a hatchet and eyes that cataloged her body like she was meat on a scale. "Asked you to stop." Sophia stopped, not because she wanted to, but because a third man had materialized directly in front of her, cutting off her escape route. This one wore an expensive jacket that the rain beaded off like it was coated in oil. His hands were in his pockets. He looked almost bored. "Gentlemen," Sophia said, fighting to keep her voice level, "I don't have anything worth taking. I'm a waitress. I've got maybe $20 and a MetroCard." "We don't want your money," the man in the expensive jacket said. His voice was educated, which somehow made everything worse. "We want information." "About what?" "About who owns this building." He gestured upward toward the restaurant she'd just left. "About who you pay rent to." Sophia blinked rain out of her eyes. "I don't pay rent. I work here. The owner is some property company. I don't know." "Moretti Holdings," the man interrupted. "Ring any bells?" It did, vaguely. She'd seen the name on some papers in the office once, when she'd been dropping off her W-2. But she'd never paid attention because why would she? Sofia Castellano barely made enough to survive. Real estate empires were as relevant to her life as Mars colonies. "I don't know anything," she said. "I just work here. I bus tables. I scrub floors. That's it." The man studied her for a long moment. Rain drummed against his jacket. Finally, he nodded. "All right. You're nobody. Good." He stepped aside. "Get out of here." Sophia didn't need to be told twice. She walked past them, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. 3 steps, 5, 10. She was going to make it. She was going to... Wait. The word stopped her like a physical barrier. She turned slowly. A 4th man had appeared at the mouth of the alley. Sophia's breath caught. He was tall, over 6 feet, with shoulders that seemed to fill the narrow space between the buildings. His suit was dark and perfectly cut, somehow immaculate despite the rain. Black hair swept back from a face that looked carved from granite, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through her. He moved like violence contained in human form, each step deliberate and controlled. The three men who'd surrounded her suddenly looked like children playing dress-up. "Mr. Moretti," the man in the expensive jacket said, his voice cracking slightly. "We were just leaving," the newcomer, Moretti, said. His voice was quiet but absolute. "Weren't you?" It wasn't a question. The three men vanished like smoke. 1 second they were there, the next the alley was empty except for Sophia and the man who'd made them disappear with 4 words. Dante Moretti looked at her. Really looked at her. Sophia had spent her entire adult life being invisible, to customers, to bosses, to the city that swallowed people like her whole. But this man saw her. His dark eyes moved across her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You work at the restaurant," he said. Not a question. "Yes?" Sophia's voice came out smaller than she wanted. "How long?" 3 years. "And in 3 years, have I ever spoken to you?" "No, sir." Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "Sir, I like that." He took a step closer. Sophia's instincts screamed at her to run, but her legs had turned to concrete. "What's your name?" "Sofia Castellano." "Sophia." He said it like he was tasting the syllables. "Do you know who I am?" "You're Mr. Moretti. You own the building." "I own a lot of buildings. I own this neighborhood. Do you understand what that means?" Sophia understood she was talking to someone dangerous. Someone who made grown men run away like frightened children. Someone who probably had more money in his wallet than she'd earned in her entire life. "It means you're important," she said carefully. "It means I'm a criminal." He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. "Does that frighten you?" "Yes." He smiled. It transformed his face completely, turning him from intimidating to devastating. "Good. Fear is honest. I appreciate honesty." He studied her again, and Sophia had the strange sensation of being catalogued, assessed, weighed on scales she couldn't see. "You're soaked. Let me give you a ride home." "That's not necessary." It wasn't a request. A black car materialized at the end of the alley like it had been summoned. The door opened. A man in a driver's uniform stepped out, holding an umbrella. Sophia looked at the car, then at Moretti, then at the rain-soaked alley stretching endlessly toward the distant subway station. Every instinct told her to run. Every practical bone in her body told her she was an idiot if she turned down a warm, dry ride. "I don't even know where you live," Moretti said, watching her internal debate with what looked like amusement. "You could give me a fake address. Jump out at a stoplight. I'm offering you basic human decency, Sophia, not a marriage proposal." She got in the car. The interior smelled like leather and money. Sophia had never been in a vehicle this nice. The seats were heated. There was a bottle of water in a cup holder that probably cost more than her entire outfit. She sat stiffly, acutely aware of how she was dripping all over everything. Moretti slid in beside her. The door closed. The driver pulled away without needing directions, which meant Moretti had already told him where to go, which meant he'd already decided she was getting in this car. "You're terrified," Moretti observed. He'd settled into his seat like a king on a throne, completely relaxed. "Your hands are shaking." "I'm cold." "You're scared. Don't lie to me, Sophia. I told you I value honesty." "Fine. I'm scared. You just told me you're a criminal, and now I'm in your car going somewhere you decided before you even asked me. Is that honest enough?" He laughed. The sound was rich and genuine, filling the car's interior. "Much better. See? You have a spine after all. I was starting to wonder. What do you want from me?" "Right now, nothing. I'm simply curious." He turned to look at her fully. "Those men who stopped you, they were asking about me, about my business. And you could have told them anything. You could have made something up, tried to earn their favor, maybe get some money out of it. But you didn't. You told them the truth, that you're nobody who knows nothing." "Because I am nobody who knows nothing." "Exactly." He leaned back, apparently satisfied. "That's what makes you interesting." The car glided through streets Sophia knew intimately, but which looked different from behind tinted windows. They passed bodegas where she bought her groceries, laundromats where she washed her clothes, bus stops where she waited in the cold. Her whole life contained in a few square blocks of urban poverty. "Tell me about yourself," Moretti said. "Why?" "Because I asked." Sophia stared at her hands. They were rough from industrial soap and hot water, the nails cut short and unpolished. "There's nothing to tell. I work 3 jobs. I have debt. I survive. That's it." "3 jobs?" "The restaurant during dinner and late-night shifts, a coffee shop in the mornings, cleaning offices on weekends." "How much debt?" The question was so direct it knocked the breath out of her. "That's personal." "How much, Sophia?" $60,000. Saying it out loud made her want to throw up. "Medical bills from when my mom got sick. Student loans from the semester of college I couldn't finish. Credit cards I used to pay for her funeral. I'll never pay it off. The interest alone—" She stopped, horrified at herself. Why was she telling him this? Why was she spilling her guts to a stranger who'd admitted he was a criminal? But Moretti was listening like her problems actually mattered, like she was worth listening to. "What happened to your mother?" he asked quietly. "Cancer. 3 years ago. She didn't have insurance. I tried to pay for her treatment, but—" Sophia's throat closed up. She still couldn't talk about it. Couldn't think about those last months, watching her mother waste away while debt collectors called every hour. "I'm sorry." She looked at him sharply, expecting mockery or pity, but his expression was neutral. Not kind exactly, but not cruel either, just acknowledging. The car pulled up outside her building. Sophia recognized the cracked concrete steps, the broken security door, the windows covered with bars. Home, such as it was. "Thank you for the ride," she said, reaching for the door handle. "Wait." She froze. Moretti reached into his jacket. Sophia's heart stopped. Was this it? Had she made some fatal mistake, said the wrong thing? Was he going to— He pulled out a business card. "I have a proposition for you," he said, holding it out. "Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Come to this address." Sophia stared at the card like it might explode. "A proposition. A business arrangement. One that would solve all your problems." You don't have to decide now. Just come tomorrow. Hear what I have to say. If you don't like it, you walk away. No consequences, no obligations." He pressed the card into her hand. His fingers were warm despite the rain. "But if you don't come, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. And I think you're tired of just surviving, Sophia. I think you're ready to actually live." He opened the door for her. Sophia stumbled out into the rain, clutching the card. Before she could say anything else, the car pulled away, leaving her alone on the sidewalk. She looked down at the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. An address in Manhattan that she knew was one of the most expensive areas in the city. Sophia Castellano stood in the rain, holding a business card from a man who owned buildings and admitted to being a criminal, and she knew, absolutely knew, that if she went to that address tomorrow, her life would never be the same. The question was whether she was brave enough to go. She went. Of course she went. Sophia spent the next day in a fog, going through the motions at the coffee shop, burning her hand on the espresso machine, forgetting orders, spilling milk. Her manager asked if she was sick. She said she was fine. She was lying. That business card sat in her pocket like a live coal. She'd taken it out and looked at it 100 times. The address. The embossed name. Dante Moretti. No title, no explanation, just the address and a time. She should throw it away. She should forget last night ever happened. Men like Dante Moretti didn't offer business arrangements to women like her unless those arrangements involved things she didn't want to think about. But he'd said if she didn't like it, she could walk away. No consequences. And $60,000 of debt said she was an idiot if she didn't at least listen. So at 6:30 p.m., Sophia found herself on the subway heading into Manhattan, wearing the best outfit she owned, black pants that were only a little worn at the knees, a gray sweater that almost looked professional if you didn't look too close at the pilling under the arms, and boots she'd bought at a thrift store. She'd washed her hair and even put on a little makeup, though she barely remembered how. The address led her to a building that made her feel like she'd walked into a different universe. Glass and steel stretched toward the sky. The lobby, all marble floors and modern art that probably cost more than her apartment building. A doorman in an actual uniform looked at her like she was lost. "I'm here to see Dante Moretti," Sophia said, hating how her voice cracked. The doorman's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition. Maybe respect. Maybe fear. Name? Sofia Castellano. He picked up a phone, murmured something she couldn't hear, then nodded. Top floor. Elevators on your left. The elevator was mirrored on all sides. Sophia watched herself rise through the building, her reflection multiplying infinitely. She looked exactly like what she was, a poor girl in cheap clothes, completely out of her depth. The doors opened directly into a penthouse apartment. Sophia stepped out into a space that redefined her understanding of wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that looked like something from a movie. The furniture was all clean lines and expensive fabrics. Art hung on the walls. Real art, the kind she'd only seen in museums. Everything was perfect. Nothing was lived in. You came. She spun around. Dante stood near the windows holding a glass of what looked like whiskey. He wore a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up, the top button undone. No jacket, no tie. Somehow he looked even more dangerous this way. Less formal, more real. I came, Sophia agreed. Her voice sounded too loud in the quiet apartment. I wasn't sure you would. He took a sip of his drink, watching her over the rim of the glass. Most people are smart enough to run from me. Maybe I'm not smart. Or maybe you're desperate. He set down his glass and walked toward her. Sophia forced herself not to back up. Are you desperate, Sophia? Yes. Good. Desperation makes people honest. He stopped a few feet away, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. Sit, please. There was a couch behind her. Sophia sat. Dante remained standing, and she had to tilt her head back to look at him. Power dynamics, she thought. He's establishing dominance. She'd read about this in some psychology article once, back when she thought she'd finished college. I'm going to make you an offer, Dante said. I want you to listen to the entire thing before you respond. Can you do that? Sophia nodded. I need a companion, someone to attend events with me, appear at my side in public, play the role of my girlfriend when necessary. In exchange, I'll pay off your debt, all of it, and provide you with a monthly allowance. The arrangement will last 6 months. At the end of that time, you walk away with no debt, enough money to start a new life, and we never see each other again. Sophia's brain had stopped working somewhere around pay off your debt. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend, she said slowly. For 6 months. Yes. Why? Because I'm tired of the women in my world. They want something from me. Power, money, connections. They lie, they manipulate, they bore me. He said it without emotion, just stating facts. You don't want anything from me. You don't even know who I am. That makes you perfect. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. You're honest. You're loyal. You stayed late to help your manager clean grease traps, didn't get paid extra. You're smart. I saw your eyes last night, calculating every exit, every option, and you're desperate enough to be here but brave enough to question me. He tilted his head. Am I wrong? He wasn't wrong. Sophia hated that he wasn't wrong. What exactly would I have to do? She asked. Attend events, dinners, fundraisers, gallery openings, stand next to me, look beautiful, make conversation. Nothing you haven't done as a waitress, except the clothes will be better, and you'll be better paid. That's it? Just public appearances? That's it. And if I say no, then you say no. I'll have my driver take you home, and we'll forget this conversation happened. Sophia looked around the penthouse, at the art and the view and the furniture that cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. She thought about her apartment with its broken heat and mice in the walls. She thought about debt collectors calling at midnight, about working 3 jobs and still drowning, about her mother's grave that she couldn't afford to visit because the cemetery was in New Jersey and the train fare might as well be $1 million. She thought about actually living instead of just surviving. I want it in writing, she heard herself say. A contract, with all the terms spelled out. What I have to do. What you'll pay. What happens if either of us breaks the agreement? Dante smiled. Smart girl. I already had my lawyer draw one up. He walked to a desk and returned with a thick document. Read it. Take your time. If you want your own lawyer to look at it, I'll pay for that too. Sophia took the contract. Her hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. Possibility. The contract was surprisingly straightforward. 6 months. Public appearances only. No physical relationship required unless mutually agreed upon. $60,000 paid directly to her creditors within 1 week of signing. $5,000 monthly allowance. Wardrobe provided. Housing provided if desired. Either party could terminate early with 2 weeks' notice, but early termination meant debt payment would be reduced proportionally. It was professional, businesslike, almost boring in its specificity. "Why me?" Sophia asked again, looking up from the contract. "There must be 1,000 women in this city who do this." "There are," Dante agreed. "Beautiful women, connected women, women who know how to navigate my world. But they all want something from me. They see me as a stepping stone to something better." He crouched down so they were eye level, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. "You see me as a man who admitted he's a criminal and still scared you enough that your hands shake when I get close. That's honest. That's real. I'm surrounded by people who lie to me every second of every day. You won't lie to me. You're too afraid of me to lie." "I'm not afraid of you," Sophia said. "Liar." But he said it gently, almost affectionately. "So? What's your answer?" Sophia looked at the contract, at the number, $60,000. Debt forgiveness. Freedom. She thought about what her mother would say. Her mother, who'd worked herself to death trying to give Sophia a better life. Her mother, who'd died drowning in medical bills, apologizing for being sick. Her mother would tell her to run, to get away from this dangerous man and his dangerous world. But her mother was dead. And Sophia was tired of being buried alive by debt and exhaustion and invisibility. "I need a pen," she said. Dante handed her one. It was heavy, probably gold, probably worth more than her rent. Sophia signed her name, and just like that, her life changed. The next week passed in a blur that felt like someone else's life. First came the money. Dante hadn't lied. Within 3 days of signing the contract, every single one of Sophia's creditors sent her confirmation emails. Paid in full. Zero balance. She'd stared at her phone for an hour, refreshing her banking app over and over, certain it was a mistake. But it wasn't a mistake. For the first time in 3 years, Sophia Castellano was debt-free. She'd cried, sat on her apartment floor and sobbed until she couldn't breathe, all the fear and exhaustion and desperation pouring out of her. Then she'd called the restaurant and quit, called the coffee shop and quit, called the cleaning company and quit. She was done surviving. Time to see if she could actually live. Then came the wardrobe. A woman named Elise appeared at Sophia's apartment, tall, elegant, with perfect posture and an accent that might have been French. She'd looked around the tiny studio with its peeling paint and broken fixtures, and her expression had remained perfectly neutral. "We'll need to take measurements," Elise had said. "Mr. Moretti has asked me to prepare you for Friday's event." Friday's event turned out to be a charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Sophia had never been to the Met. She'd lived in New York her entire life, and never once set foot in one of its most famous museums, because the suggested donation was $25, and that was groceries for a week. Now she was going to a private event there, on the arm of Dante Moretti. She was absolutely going to throw up. Elise had taken over Sophia's life with terrifying efficiency. Measurements, fittings, a team of people who descended on her apartment to do things to her hair and skin and nails that Sophia didn't even know were possible. They waxed and buffed and moisturized and styled until she barely recognized herself. The dress arrived Friday morning. Sophia opened the box with shaking hands. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. Midnight blue silk that shimmered when it moved, with a neckline that was elegant without being revealing and a skirt that would flow when she walked. She tried it on and stared at herself in the mirror. The woman looking back wasn't Sophia Castellano, struggling waitress. This woman looked like she belonged in Dante's world. The transformation was terrifying. A car picked her up at 6, the same driver from that rainy night, though this time Sophia was dry and warm and wearing a dress that cost more than her previous monthly salary. She sat in the back seat, trying not to hyperventilate. "First time?" the driver asked. "That obvious? You look like you're going to be sick. Don't worry, Mr. Moretti doesn't bite." A pause. "Usually." Sophia couldn't tell if he was joking. They pulled up outside Dante's building. The doorman, the same one from before, actually smiled at her this time. Sophia rode the elevator up, watching her reflection multiply in the mirrors. The dress really was beautiful. Maybe she could do this. Maybe... The elevator doors opened. Dante stood waiting for her, and Sophia's brain short-circuited. He wore a tuxedo like he'd been born in one. Black jacket perfectly tailored to his shoulders, white shirt crisp enough to cut glass, bow tie that probably cost more than her entire outfit. His dark hair was swept back, his jaw sharp enough to hurt, and when he looked at her, really looked at her, Something in his expression made her breath catch. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "Thank you. You look dangerous, devastating, like every warning her mother ever gave her about powerful men." "Nice." His mouth quirked. "Nice. I'll take it." He offered his arm. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Honesty. I knew I chose well." He waited until she took his arm, then led her to the elevator. "Tonight's event is a fundraiser for the museum's renovation project. Very wealthy people pretending to care about art. Your job is simple. Stay close to me, smile, make small talk when necessary, and don't let anyone intimidate you." "Everyone there will intimidate me." "Then fake it. You're with me. That makes you untouchable." The car ride to the Met took 20 minutes. Dante spent it briefing her on who would be there: politicians, business owners, socialites, people with names she'd heard on the news, people who shaped the city while Sophia had been invisible. "Why are you telling me all this?" she asked. "Because knowledge is power, and I want you to have power tonight. I want them to look at you and wonder who you are, how you got my attention, what you might know." He glanced at her. "Let them wonder. Let them worry. That's how my world works." They arrived at this Met to a red carpet and photographers, actual paparazzi. Sophia's heart climbed into her throat. "Smile," Dante murmured. "You're beautiful. Let them see it." They stepped out of the car together. Flashes erupted like lightning. Someone shouted Dante's name. Someone else shouted questions. "Who's she with you? What's her name? Is this serious?" Dante ignored them all. His hand settled on the small of Sophia's back, warm and solid, guiding her through the chaos. They walked into the museum like they owned it. Maybe Dante did own it. At this point, Sophia wouldn't be surprised. The gala was exactly what he'd described. Wealthy people in expensive clothes pretending to care about art while really networking and making deals. Crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, waiters carrying trays of food that looked like tiny works of art. Sophia had served people at events like this. Now she was attending one. The cognitive dissonance made her dizzy. "Stay with me," Dante said softly. Then he guided her into the crowd, and Sophia's crash course in high society began. She met so many people her head spun. Senators, CEOs, a woman who owned half the real estate in Manhattan, a man who'd made billions in tech. They all treated Dante with a mixture of respect and fear that told Sophia everything about how dangerous he really was. And they looked at her with naked curiosity. "Who's your friend, Dante?" a woman in diamonds asked. Her smile was friendly, but her eyes were calculating. "This is Sophia," Dante said. "Not Sophia Castellano, not my girlfriend, just Sophia, like that was all the explanation anyone deserved." "Charmed," the woman said. "I don't believe we've met before. What do you do, Sophia?" This was it. The moment where Sophia could tell the truth, that she was nobody, that she'd been a waitress a week ago, and watch these people dismiss her. Or she could take Dante's advice, fake it. "I'm between projects right now," Sophia said smoothly, taking some time to explore what's next. It was beautifully vague. It could mean anything. The woman nodded like it made perfect sense and moved on to asking Dante about some business deal. Sophia breathed again. The night continued like that, a performance where Sophia played a role she barely understood. But Dante never left her side. His hand stayed on her back, or her elbow, or her waist, a constant reminder that she wasn't alone, that she was protected. Halfway through the evening, they found themselves alone for a moment near a window overlooking the city. "You're doing well," Dante said. "I feel like a fraud." "Everyone here is a fraud. At least you're honest about it." He turned to look at her, and there was something in his expression she couldn't read. "You surprised me tonight." "How?" "I thought you'd be overwhelmed, intimidated. Instead, you're holding your own. That takes courage. Or stupidity." He laughed, and the sound did something strange to her chest. "Maybe both. Come on, there's someone I need you to meet." He led her through the crowd to a group of men clustered near the bar. They were younger than most of the other guests, sharper dressed, and they watched Dante approach with expressions that ranged from respectful to wary. "Gentlemen," Dante said, "this is Sophia. Sophia, these are some business associates of mine." The men studied her with undisguised interest. One of them, dark-haired, handsome in a cruel way, smiled. "So this is the mystery woman," he said. "We've been hearing rumors." "Have you?" Dante's voice went flat. "Dangerous." The man's smile didn't waver. "Nothing bad. Just that Dante Moretti has finally found someone interesting. We were starting to think you were incapable of human connection. Careful, Marco. Marco raised his hands in mock surrender, but his eyes stayed on Sophia. No offense intended, I'm just impressed. Usually Dante's dates look like they were ordered from a catalog. You look... He paused, searching for words. Real. Before Sophia could figure out if that was an insult, Dante's hand tightened on her waist. If you're done being charming, Dante said coldly, I have business to discuss. Alone. The message was clear. Sophia wasn't part of this conversation. Sophia gestured vaguely toward the crowd. Stay where I can see you, Dante said. It wasn't a request. Sophia wandered away, hyper-aware of being alone in this glittering crowd. She grabbed a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, her first drink of the night, and found herself standing in front of a massive painting. Abstract swirls of color that probably meant something deep, but just looked like chaos to her. It's awful, isn't it? Sophia turned. A woman stood next to her, older, maybe 60, with silver hair and a dress that looked like it cost more than a car. Her smile was genuine. I don't know much about art, Sophia admitted. Neither does anyone else here, dear. That's the secret. The woman sipped her champagne. I'm Evelyn Rothschild. The name meant nothing to Sophia. Sophia Castellano. I know. You're with Dante Moretti. That's caused quite a stir. Evelyn studied her with kind eyes. How long have you two been together? Not long. And how are you finding his world? Sophia looked around at the wealth, the power, the beautiful people in their beautiful clothes. Honestly, terrifying. Evelyn laughed. Good answer. Most girls lie and pretend they belong. You at least have the sense to be frightened. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. Can I give you some advice? Please. Men like Dante Moretti are dangerous. Not because they'll hurt you physically, though they can, but because they make you want things you shouldn't want. Power. Protection. A life you never imagined. Her expression turned serious. And once you've had a taste of that life, it's very hard to go back to who you were before. So be careful, Sophia Castellano. Be very, very careful. Before Sophia could respond, Evelyn was gone, melting back into the crowd. Sophia stood alone, champagne glass in hand, Evelyn's warning echoing in her head. There you are? Dante materialized at her side. He looked annoyed. I told you to stay where I could see you. I didn't go far. Far enough. He took her champagne glass and set it on a nearby table. We're leaving. The event isn't over. I'm done. That means we're done. He started walking, clearly expecting her to follow. Sophia followed, because that was the arrangement, because he paid her to be at his side, because some part of her, the part that terrified her, wanted to. They were silent in the car. Dante stared out the window, his jaw tight, radiating barely controlled anger about something. Sophia didn't ask what. She was learning that silence was sometimes safer. But when they pulled up outside her building, her old, broken building in her old, broken neighborhood, Dante finally spoke. I'm sorry. Sophia blinked. For what? For treating you like property, for ordering you around, for... He ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. You did well tonight. Better than well. And I repaid that by snapping at you like you were staff instead of... He trailed off. Instead of what? He looked at her then, really looked at her, and there was something raw in his expression, something vulnerable that she hadn't expected to see from Dante Moretti, instead of someone who deserves better. He finished quietly. They sat in the car, inches apart, while something unnamed stretched between them. Sophia should get out, should say goodnight, should remember this was business, just business, 6 months, and then freedom. Thank you, she said instead. For tonight, for all of this. I know it's just a job, but it's not just a job. The words hung in the air. What? Sophia whispered. Dante shook his head, like he was arguing with himself. Nothing. Forget it. Good night, Sophia. She got out of the car, walked up to her building, turned back once to see the car still idling at the curb, Dante's silhouette visible through the tinted windows. Then the car pulled away, and Sophia was alone with her thoughts and a dress that cost more than her rent, and the feeling that tonight had changed something fundamental between them, something that couldn't be undone. She went inside, climbed the stairs to her apartment, and locked the door behind her. Then she leaned against it and let out a shaky breath. What had she gotten herself into? And why did some small, reckless part of her want to get in deeper? The invitation arrived 3 days later. Sophia was still living in her cramped studio, even though Dante had offered her housing. Something about staying here felt safer, like keeping one foot in her old life meant she could still escape if things went wrong. But the apartment felt different now, emptier. The silence that used to feel like peace now felt like loneliness. She was making coffee when someone knocked, not the buzzer downstairs, an actual knock on her door. Sophia froze. Nobody knocked on her door. She didn't have friends who visited, didn't have family left. Through the peephole, she saw a young man in a suit holding an envelope. "Delivery for Sofia Castellano," he said when she cracked the door open. "From Mr. Moretti." He handed her the envelope and left before she could respond. Inside was an invitation to a private dinner at some restaurant Sophia had never heard of, but which Google told her had a 6-month waiting list and a Michelin star. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., and a handwritten note in strong, angular script, "Wear the red dress." Sophia hadn't seen any red dress, but when she checked her closet, which Elise had mysteriously restocked while Sophia was out yesterday, she found it. Deep crimson silk with a fitted bodice and a skirt that would hug her curves. It was gorgeous. It was also completely inappropriate for a business arrangement. She should call Dante, should ask what this was about, should remind him that the contract specified public appearances, and a private dinner wasn't exactly public. She wore the red dress. The restaurant turned out to be a small place in the West Village, so exclusive it didn't even have a sign, just a black door with a brass number. Sophia stood outside for 5 minutes, trying to convince herself to go in. The door opened. A man in an impeccable suit smiled at her. "Miss Castellano, Mr. Moretti is waiting for you." Inside was like stepping into another world, all dark wood and candlelight, and the kind of quiet that only extreme wealth could buy. The maitre d' led her through the empty restaurant to a private room in the back. Dante stood when she entered. He wasn't wearing a tux tonight, just a black shirt and slacks, sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms that Sophia had no business noticing. He looked less formal, more dangerous. "You came," he said. "You sent a car. It would have been rude not to. You could have sent the car away." "I could have." Sophia moved into the room, acutely aware of how the dress fit, how his eyes tracked her movement. "Why am I here, Dante?" "To have dinner with me." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one you're getting right now. Sit, please." The table was set for 2, candles flickering between them. Wine was already poured, something red that probably cost more than her old monthly salary. Sophia sat because standing felt too vulnerable. "You've been avoiding me," Dante said. "We had one event. I didn't realize I was supposed to check in daily." "You're not. But I texted you twice. You didn't respond." Sophia had seen the texts. Casual messages asking how she was, if she needed anything. They'd felt too personal for a business arrangement, so she'd ignored them. "I didn't think you wanted casual conversation," she said carefully. "I thought this was supposed to be professional." "It is professional." But something in his tone suggested he was lying. "I wanted to make sure you were settling in, that you had everything you needed." "I have everything. Thank you." Servers appeared with the first course, something delicate in French that Sophia couldn't identify. She picked up her fork, trying to remember which utensil to use. Dante watched her with barely concealed amusement. "You can ask," he said. "Ask what?" "Which fork? How to eat it. I won't judge you." "I know how to eat," Sophia said sharply. "I'm sure you do, but this isn't the restaurant where you used to work. Different rules." He picked up the correct fork and demonstrated. "Start from the outside, work your way in, and for what it's worth, I don't care if you use the wrong fork. I didn't grow up with any of this either." That surprised her. "You didn't?" "No, my father was a mechanic. We lived in Queens. Had nothing." He took a bite of food, chewed thoughtfully. "I built everything I have from scratch. Some of it legally, most of it not." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know who I am. Not the man they see at galas. The real me." Sophia set down her fork. "Why?" "Because you're real, and I'm tired of pretending." The honesty in his voice made her chest tight. This wasn't the controlled, dangerous man from the Met. This was someone else. Someone vulnerable. "What do you want from me, Dante?" Sophia asked quietly. "Really?" He was silent for a long moment, swirling wine in his glass. "I don't know. That's the problem." They ate in silence for a while. The food was incredible, each course a work of art, but Sophia barely tasted it. She was too aware of Dante across the table, of the way candlelight played across his features, of how the air between them felt charged with something she couldn't name. "Tell me about your life before," Dante said suddenly. "Before the debt. Before your mother got sick. What did you want?" No one had asked her that in years. "I wanted to be a teacher," Sophia said. The words felt rusty. "Elementary school. I liked the idea of helping kids, making a difference in their lives. I did 1 semester of college before Mom got sick. Education major, I was good at it." "What stopped you?" "Reality, bills, medical debt, survival." She took a drink of wine, the alcohol warming her from the inside. "Dreams are expensive. I couldn't afford mine. What if you could now?" Sophia looked up sharply. "What?" "The contract is 6 months. After that, you'll have money. No debt. What would you do with that freedom?" She'd thought about this. Late at night, when she couldn't sleep, she'd imagined finishing her degree, getting a teaching certificate, actually having a life instead of just surviving. "I don't know if I can go back to that dream," Sophia admitted. "Too much time has passed. Too much has changed." "You've changed." "Yes. Maybe that's not a bad thing." Dante leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. "Maybe the woman you're becoming is better than the girl you were. Or maybe she's just better at pretending. Then we're the same." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I pretend every day. Pretend I don't care that everyone fears me. Pretend I enjoy this life. Pretend I'm not exhausted by all of it." The admission hung between them like a confession. "Why do you do it then?" Sophia asked. "If you hate it so much, why not walk away?" "Because walking away means losing everything. And I've worked too hard to build this empire to let it crumble." He finished his wine. "Besides, what would I do instead? I'm good at what I do, even if what I do is morally questionable." "Morally questionable is generous. You told me you're a criminal." "I am, but I have rules, lines I don't cross." He held her gaze. "I don't hurt innocents. I don't traffic in things that destroy lives. I'm not a good man, Sophia, but I'm not a monster." "What are you then?" "Practical, ruthless when necessary, and very, very tired of being alone." The last part came out so quietly, Sophia almost missed it. "You're surrounded by people," she said. "None of them real. None of them honest." He reached across the table and took her hand. The contact sent electricity up her arm. "Except you." Sophia should pull away, should remind him this was business, should maintain the professional distance that kept her safe. She didn't move. "This is dangerous," she whispered. "I know." "The contract says, Forget the contract." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "Tell me you don't feel this." Sophia couldn't, because she did feel it, had felt it since that first night in the rain when he'd looked at her like she mattered. She'd told herself it was gratitude, or fear, or just the intoxication of having her debts erased, but it wasn't any of those things. It was attraction, raw and undeniable and completely terrifying. "I feel it," she admitted. Dante's expression transformed. Relief. Want. Something almost like joy. "Then stay with me tonight," he said. "Not because of the contract, not because I'm paying you, because you want to." Every rational part of Sophia's brain screamed at her to say no, to remember this was temporary, to protect herself before she got hurt. "Okay," she said instead. They left the restaurant together, Dante's hand on the small of her back, burning through the thin silk of her dress. The car was waiting. They sat closer this time, thighs touching, the air thick with anticipation. "We don't have to do anything," Dante said quietly. "I just want you near me." Sophia turned to look at him. In the dim light of the car, he looked younger, less intimidating, almost vulnerable. "I want to," she said. His penthouse felt different tonight, less like a showpiece, more like a home. Dante poured them both drinks, whiskey neat, and they stood by the windows looking out at the glittering city. "Do you ever get tired of the view?" Sophia asked. "Every day. But tonight it looks different." "Why?" "Because you're here." It should have sounded like a line, but the way he said it, quiet and honest, made it feel like truth. Sophia set down her glass and turned to face him. "I don't know what I'm doing." "Neither do I." "You're supposed to be the one in control." "I haven't been in control since the moment I saw you in that alley." He set down his own glass and stepped closer. You've ruined me, Sofia Castellano. Completely ruined me. Then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and hungry and full of weeks of tension finally breaking. Sofia's hands found his hair, pulling him closer, and Dante's arms came around her waist, lifting her against him. She wrapped her legs around him and he carried her through the penthouse to his bedroom, their mouths never separating. The bed was massive and soft, and they fell into it together, all tangled limbs and racing hearts. Dante pulled back just long enough to look at her, his eyes dark with want. "Tell me to stop," he said roughly. "Tell me this is a bad idea, and I'll take you home right now." Sofia pulled him back down. "Don't stop." So he didn't. Later, much later, Sofia lay in Dante's arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. The room was dark except for the city lights filtering through the windows. She should feel guilty, should feel like she'd crossed a line, should feel something other than this bone-deep contentment. "Stay," Dante murmured against her hair. "I am staying." "No, I mean really stay. Move in here. Let me take care of you." Sofia lifted her head to look at him. "That wasn't part of the deal." "Forget the deal. I'm asking you as—" He trailed off, searching for words. "As someone who doesn't want to spend another night without you." It was too much, too fast, too real. "Dante, you don't have to answer now. Just think about it." He pulled her closer. "I know this is complicated. I know I'm asking you to trust someone you barely know. But I swear to you, Sofia, I will keep you safe, always." She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe this could be real and not just some fantasy that would shatter the moment reality intruded. "I'll think about it," she said finally. He kissed the top of her head. "That's all I ask." Sofia closed her eyes and let herself drift, wrapped in expensive sheets and the arms of a man who was supposed to be just business, but who had somehow become so much more. She didn't think about tomorrow, didn't think about consequences. For one night, she let herself just feel. It was the best mistake she'd ever made. When Sofia woke, sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, and she was alone. For a moment, panic seized her. Had last night been real? Had she imagined the whole thing? Then she saw the note on the pillow next to her. Meeting ran long. Stay as long as you want. Everything in the apartment is yours, including me. Sofia smiled despite herself. She got up, wrapped herself in one of Dante's shirts, it hung to her thighs and smelled like him, and explored the penthouse properly for the first time. In daylight, it was even more impressive. The art wasn't just expensive, it was carefully chosen, modern pieces that actually meant something, not just status symbols. The books on the shelves were worn, actually read. The kitchen was professional grade but showed signs of use. Dante Moretti, she realized, actually lived here. This wasn't just a showpiece, this was home. She was making coffee when she heard the elevator. Dante stepped out, still in last night's clothes, looking exhausted but somehow pleased to see her. "You stayed," he said. "You have good coffee." He crossed the room and kissed her, slow and deep and thorough. When he pulled back, Sofia's knees were weak. "I could get used to coming home to this," he murmured. "Don't get too used to it. I haven't decided about moving in yet." "But you're considering it." "Maybe. I'll take maybe." He grabbed his own coffee and leaned against the counter, watching her. "I have another event tomorrow night. Some business dinner. Very boring. Very political. Want to come?" "Is that a request or an order?" "A request. Always a request, Sofia. You can say no." She thought about it. Thought about going back to her empty apartment, to silence and loneliness. Thought about the alternative. More nights like this, more mornings waking up in silk sheets, more of whatever this thing between them was becoming. "I'll come," she said. Dante's smile was worth it. The next evening, Sofia found herself at another high-end event, this time at a private club that looked like it hadn't changed since the 19th century. All dark wood and leather and old money. The men wore tuxedos. The women wore jewelry that could fund small countries, and they all looked at Sofia like she was a fascinating puzzle. "You're becoming quite the fixture," a woman said to her near the bar. She was older, diamonds dripping from her ears and throat. "Dante's been alone for so long. We'd started to think he preferred it that way." "Maybe he was just waiting for the right person," Sofia said smoothly. The woman laughed. "Clever. I like you. Most girls he's brought around were vapid. You have a brain." "Thank you, I think. It's a compliment, dear. In this world, Beauty is common. Intelligence is rare. She sipped her martini. Be careful, though. Dante's world isn't kind to outsiders, and you're very much an outsider. It wasn't a threat, just a warning. Sophia was saved from responding by Dante's return. He'd been pulled away for business discussions, the real reason for tonight's gathering, and he looked tense. Everything okay? Sophia asked quietly. Fine. Just politics. He took her hand. Dance with me. There was a small orchestra playing in the corner, and a few couples swayed on the dance floor. Dante led her into the space and pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other clasping hers. I don't really know how to do this, Sophia admitted. Just follow my lead. I've got you. They moved together, and Sophia was surprised by how natural it felt. How right. Dante was a good dancer, confident and smooth, and she relaxed into his arms. Thank you for being here, he said quietly. Tonight was difficult. Seeing you made it bearable. What was difficult about it? He was quiet for a moment, then sighed. Business, territory disputes, people who want what I have and are willing to do terrible things to get it. He looked down at her. My world is dangerous, Sophia. You should know that. Should understand what you're getting into. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest. You deserve that. Sophia thought about Evelyn's warning at the Met, about the woman tonight telling her to be careful. Everyone seemed convinced that being with Dante would destroy her. Maybe they were right. I'm not scared, she said. You should be. Probably, but I'm not. She met his eyes. I'm choosing this, Dante. I'm choosing you, consequences and all. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her closer, tucking her head against his chest, and they danced like that, wrapped around each other, moving to music that seemed written just for them. Sophia didn't see the man watching them from across the room, didn't see the calculation in his eyes, the way he studied her like she was a weakness to exploit, didn't see him pull out his phone and make a call. She was too busy falling. The next few weeks blurred together in a haze of events and late nights and mornings tangled in Dante's sheets. Sophia had essentially moved into the penthouse without officially deciding to. Her clothes migrated over in bags, her toiletries appeared in his bathroom, her books ended up on his shelves. They fell into a routine. Dante would leave early for meetings she wasn't allowed to know about. Sophia would spend her days exploring the city she'd lived in her whole life but never really seen. Museums, galleries, parks. She'd meet Dante for lunch sometimes, or he'd come home early and they'd cook together, laughing when she burned pasta or when he cut vegetables with the precision of someone who'd held much more dangerous blades. At night, they'd attend events, galas, fundraisers, business dinners, and Sophia got better at playing the role, the mysterious woman who'd captured Dante Moretti's attention. She learned to deflect invasive questions, learned to smile through barely veiled insults, learned to navigate a world that didn't want her there. But she also learned something else. Dante's enemies were watching. It started small. A man asking too many questions about where she was from. A woman accidentally spilling wine on her dress. Comments that seemed friendly but had edges sharp enough to cut. Then it got less subtle. Sophia was leaving a coffee shop one afternoon when a car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down. A man she'd never seen before smiled at her. Sofia Castellano, he said. Get in. We need to talk. I don't know you. But I know you. I know you're sleeping with Dante Moretti. I know you used to be nobody. I know everything about you, sweetheart. Now get in the fucking car. Sophia's heart hammered. She looked around. The street was busy, people everywhere. Surely he wouldn't do anything here. If you scream, the man said pleasantly, I'll shoot the woman behind you, the one with the little girl. Do you want that on your conscience? Sophia got in the car. It drove for maybe 10 minutes, pulling into an underground parking garage. The man, who still hadn't introduced himself, led her to an office that looked like a front for something illegal. 2 more men waited inside. Sit, one of them said. Sophia sat. She was terrified but trying not to show it, trying to remember everything Dante had taught her about projecting strength. You're probably wondering why you're here, the first man said. You kidnapped me. I assume it has something to do with Dante. Smart girl. See, Dante Moretti has something we want, territory in Brooklyn. He won't sell, won't negotiate, won't even meet with us. He leaned forward, but he might be willing to deal if we have something he cares about. I'm just his girlfriend. You're more than that. We've been watching. He's different with you, softer. He cares about you. That makes you valuable. Sophia's mind raced. She needed to stall, needed to figure out how to escape, needed to... Her phone rang. One of the men grabbed it from her purse, looked at the screen. It's him. Don't answer, the leader said. Let him worry. The phone rang 3 more times over the next hour. Each time, they ignored it. Each time, Sophia's hope dimmed a little more. Then the door to the office exploded inward. Dante stood in the doorway, and he looked like death incarnate. Blood splattered his shirt. His eyes were black with rage, and the gun in his hand was pointed directly at the leader's head. You made a mistake, Dante said quietly. You took something that belongs to me. We just wanted to talk business, Dante fired. The shot was deafening in the small space. The bullet buried itself in the wall an inch from the man's head. I don't negotiate with people who threaten what's mine, Dante said. And she's mine. Do you understand? The men nodded frantically. Good. Now get out, all of you, and if you ever come near her again, I won't miss. They ran. Literally ran, stumbling over each other to escape. Dante lowered the gun and looked at Sophia. The rage drained from his expression, replaced by something else. Fear. Are you hurt? He asked. Sophia shook her head. She couldn't speak, couldn't process what had just happened. Dante crossed the room and pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. He was shaking. I thought I lost you, he whispered against her hair. When you didn't answer your phone, when my men told me they saw you get in that car, I thought... His voice broke. Don't ever scare me like that again. How did you find me? I always know where you are. I have people watching you, protecting you. They lost sight of you for 15 minutes, and I nearly burned this city down looking for you. Sophia pulled back to look at him. You have people following me? Yes, and before you get angry, understand that this is why. My world is dangerous. My enemies will use you against me. I need to know you're safe. She should be furious, should feel violated, should demand he stop, but all she felt was relief that he'd found her. Take me home, she said. He did. Back at the penthouse, Dante was silent. He paced the living room like a caged animal, while Sophia sat on the couch, still processing. This is my fault, he said finally. I brought you into this world. I made you a target. You also just saved me. I shouldn't have had to save you. You shouldn't be in danger in the first place. He stopped pacing and looked at her. Maybe Evelyn was right. Maybe this was selfish. Maybe I should let you go before something worse happens. Sophia stood up, crossed the room, put her hands on his chest and felt his heart hammering. Don't, she said. Don't push me away because you're scared. I'm terrified. Of losing you. Of getting you killed. He grabbed her hands. Sophia, I can't lose you. I can't. Then don't let me go. You don't understand what you're asking. If you stay with me, there will be more threats, more danger, more nights wondering if someone will use you to hurt me. I know. And you're still choosing this? Choosing me? Yes. He kissed her then, desperate and fierce, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her, like she might disappear if he let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. I know it's too soon, I know it's crazy, but I love you, Sofia Castellano, and that terrifies me more than anything in my life ever has. Sophia's breath caught. She'd known, somewhere deep down, she'd known they were headed here, but hearing him say it made it real. I love you too, she whispered, and she meant it. They stood there in the middle of his living room, holding each other while the city glittered around them, and Sophia knew that everything had changed. This wasn't a business arrangement anymore, wasn't a temporary escape from her old life. This was real. This was forever. Or at least she hoped it was, because walking away now would destroy her. The morning after Dante's confession, Sophia woke to find him already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her sleep. The early light painted his face in shades of gold and shadow, softening the hard edges that usually defined him. That's creepy, she murmured, her voice still rough with sleep. Can't help it. You're beautiful when you're not trying to be. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. How are you feeling? Like I got kidnapped yesterday? His jaw tightened. I'm sorry. Stop apologizing. You saved me. That's what matters. She sat up, pulling the sheet around her. But we need to talk about what happens next. What do you mean? You said your enemies will keep coming. that being with you puts a target on my back. So what's the plan? Do I hide? Do I learn to shoot? Do we pretend yesterday didn't happen and hope it doesn't repeat? Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then he got out of bed, pulled on pants, and walked to the window. The city stretched below them, indifferent to their problems. I've been thinking about that all night, he said finally, and I think we need to make you untouchable. How? He turned to look at her. By making it clear that you're not just my girlfriend. You're my partner, my equal. Someone who hurts you answers to me, and everyone in my world knows what that means. I don't understand. There's an event next week, the biggest one of the year for people in my circles. Everyone who matters will be there, allies, rivals, enemies. I want you at my side, but not as decoration, as my partner. He crossed back to the bed, sat down beside her. I want them to see that you matter to me, that you're under my protection, that touching you means war. Sophia's heart raced. You're talking about making me part of your world, really part of it. Yes. That's not what we agreed to. The contract said 6 months, public appearances, then I walk away. I know what the contract said. I'm asking you to forget the contract. I'm asking you to stay. Not for 6 months, not for money, but because you want to, because you love me. His dark eyes searched hers. Do you? Love me? She'd said it last night in the heat of the moment, wrapped in fear and relief and adrenaline, but saying it now, in the cold light of morning, felt different, more real, more permanent. Yes, Sophia said. I love you. But Dante, I'm not ready for this. Your world terrifies me. Yesterday proved that. I know, and I'm not asking you to be fearless. I'm asking you to trust me, to let me protect you, to let me make this right. He took her hands. One event, next week. Stand with me, show them you're mine, and after that we'll figure out the rest together. Can you do that? Sophia thought about the alternative, thought about walking away now, before she got in any deeper, thought about going back to her old life, to being invisible and safe and utterly alone. She thought about the man sitting in front of her, who'd torn through enemies to save her, who looked at her like she was the only real thing in his world, who'd admitted he loved her in a voice that shook with vulnerability. One event, she agreed. But after that, we talk about boundaries, rules, how to make this work without getting me killed. Relief flooded his face. Deal. He kissed her then, slow and deep, and Sophia let herself sink into it, let herself believe this could work, let herself hope. The next week passed in a blur of preparation. Elise returned with a vengeance, bringing an entire team to transform Sophia for what she kept calling the most important night of the season. They fitted her for a custom gown, black silk that hugged every curve, with a neckline that was elegant but commanding, and a slit that went high enough to be dangerous. The dress was armor disguised as beauty, but the dress was only part of it. Elise also brought in a woman named Catherine, who apparently specialized in teaching people how to navigate high society. Posture, Catherine barked, tapping Sophia's spine with a ruler. You're dating the most powerful man in the room. Act like it. I'm trying. Trying isn't good enough. These people smell weakness. They'll tear you apart if you show fear. Catherine circled her like a predator. You need to project confidence. Power. Make them wonder who you are and what you know. Make them afraid of you. I'm not scary. No, but Dante is. And you're his. That makes you terrifying by association. Use it. They practiced conversations, how to deflect invasive questions, how to handle insults disguised as compliments, how to smile while silently communicating that crossing her would be a mistake. They practiced walking in heels that felt like weapons, practiced making eye contact that held just long enough to be unsettling. By the end of the week, Sophia barely recognized herself. Dante watched her transformation with something that looked like pride mixed with concern. You don't have to change who you are, he said one night as they lay in bed. I fell in love with you as you were, not some polished version. I'm still me. I'm just learning to play the game. This isn't a game, Sophia. It's survival. Then teach me how to survive. So he did. Over dinners and late-night conversations, Dante explained the intricate politics of his world, the alliances that were really truces, the friendships that were really surveillance, the business deals that were really threats. There's a man named Victor Romano, Dante said one night. He controls most of the operations in Brooklyn. We have an understanding. He stays out of Manhattan. I stay out of Brooklyn. But he's ambitious. He wants more. Is he the one who had me grabbed? No. Those were small players trying to make a name for themselves. I dealt with them. Dante's expression went cold. But Victor is different. He's smart, patient, dangerous, and he'll be at this event. What does he want? Everything I have. He's been trying to expand into Manhattan for years. So far, I've blocked him. But he's looking for weakness, for leverage. Dante looked at her. You need to be careful around him. Don't let him get you alone. Don't answer any questions. And whatever you do, don't trust anything he says. Sophia nodded, filing the information away. Anyone else I should watch out for? Yes, a woman named Isabella Marchetti. She runs the gambling operations in Queens. We used to be involved. It was years ago, before you, before I knew what I actually wanted. He turned to face her fully. It ended badly. She's vindictive, and she'll see you as a threat. Because I have what she wants. Because you have what she couldn't keep. He pulled Sophia closer. She'll try to get in your head. Make you doubt us. Doubt me. Don't listen to her. I won't. Promise me. I promise. But as the night of the event approached, Sophia's confidence wavered. She stared at herself in the mirror the evening they were supposed to leave. Hair swept up in an elegant twist, makeup dramatic and flawless, the black dress transforming her into someone unrecognizable, and felt like an imposter. You look incredible, Dante said from the doorway. He wore a tuxedo that fit like it was painted on, all sharp lines and controlled power. I look like I'm playing dress-up. You look like a queen. He crossed the room and stood behind her, meeting her eyes in the mirror. Tonight is going to be difficult. People will test you, try to rattle you, try to find out what you know and what you're worth. His hands settled on her shoulders. But you're stronger than they think, smarter, and you have something they don't. What's that? Me. I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone hurt you. Do you understand? Sophia turned to face him. That's dramatic. That's a promise. He kissed her forehead. Ready? No. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He offered his arm. Let's go show them who you are. The event was held at a mansion in the Hamptons, a sprawling estate that looked like something from a movie. Cars lined the circular driveway, each one more expensive than the last. Valets in white gloves, security everywhere, though they were dressed well enough to blend in. Dante helped Sophia out of the car, and immediately cameras flashed. Apparently someone had tipped off the press that Dante Moretti was bringing his mysterious girlfriend to the event of the season. Don't look at the cameras, Dante murmured. Look at me. Always at me. Sophia did, focused on his face, on the confidence in his eyes, on the steady pressure of his hand on her waist. They walked through the gauntlet of photographers together, and Sophia kept her spine straight and her expression neutral. Inside was even more overwhelming. The mansion's ballroom had been transformed into something magical. Crystal chandeliers, flowers everywhere, an orchestra playing something classical and beautiful. And people, hundreds of them, all dressed in couture, all radiating wealth and power and barely concealed danger. Mr. Moretti. A man materialized in front of them, tall and silver-haired, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. So glad you could make it. Senator Morrison, Dante said smoothly. Allow me to introduce Sophia Castellano. The senator's gaze slid over her, assessing. Charmed. I've heard quite a bit about you, Miss Castellano. All good things, I hope, Sophia said, managing to keep her voice steady. Mysterious things, which in our world amounts to the same. He leaned closer. Tell me, how does a woman like you end up with a man like Dante? A woman like me? Unknown, unconnected, from nowhere, as I understand it. The insult was clear. Sophia felt Dante tense beside her, but before he could respond, she smiled. I suppose he got tired of predictable, she said sweetly. Sometimes the most interesting people come from unexpected places. Don't you think, Senator? The senator's smile turned genuine. Indeed. Well said. He nodded to Dante. She's sharp. I like her. He moved on, and Dante looked at Sophia with barely concealed pride. That was perfect, he said quietly. I'm learning. They made their way through the crowd, Dante introducing her to what felt like every powerful person on the East Coast. Sophia smiled until her face hurt, made small talk until her brain felt fried, and tried to remember all the names and faces and potential threats. Then she saw Victor Romano. He stood near the bar, surrounded by men who looked like they could break bones with their bare hands. He was shorter than Dante, stockier, with dark eyes that missed nothing. and when he saw them approaching, his smile was all teeth. "Dante Moretti," Victor said, his voice carrying just enough to turn heads. "And this must be the infamous Sofia." "Victor," Dante said coolly. "Enjoying the party?" "Immensely. Though I must say the most interesting thing here is your date." Victor turned his full attention to Sofia. "Tell me, my dear, how are you enjoying your new life?" "Very much, thank you." "I'm sure. Must be quite the change from waiting tables." He said it casually, but the message was clear. He'd done his research. He knew exactly who she'd been before Dante. "It is," Sophia agreed, refusing to be rattled. "Though I find the company much more interesting now." Victor laughed. "I bet you do. Word of advice, though, be careful. Dante's world is dangerous for the unprepared. Wouldn't want anything to happen to that pretty face." Dante's hand tightened on Sophia's waist. "Was that a threat, Victor?" "A warning. Between friends." Victor's smile never wavered. "After all, we wouldn't want a repeat of what happened to your last serious girlfriend. What was her name again?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Sophia felt Dante go absolutely still beside her, the kind of stillness that came before violence. "Careful," Dante said softly. "You're on very thin ice." "Am I? I'm just making conversation." Victor turned back to Sophia. "Has Dante told you about Maria?" "No?" "Ask him sometime. It's quite the story." He walked away, leaving Sophia with 100 questions and Dante vibrating with barely controlled rage. "Who's Maria?" Sophia asked quietly. "Not here." Dante's voice was tight. "Let's get some air." He guided her through the crowd to a balcony overlooking the gardens. The night air was cool, the sounds of the party muffled behind closed doors. Dante gripped the railing hard enough that his knuckles went white. "I should have told you before," he said finally. I didn't want to scare you off." "Tell me now." He took a deep breath. "Maria was my fiancée 5 years ago. She was like you, not from my world, just someone I met and fell for. I thought I could protect her, keep her safe while keeping her separate from the business." His voice cracked. "I was wrong." Sophia's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "My enemies found out about her, used her to get to me. They took her, held her for ransom, demanded I give up territory." He turned to look at Sophia, and his eyes were haunted. "I went after her, tore the city apart looking for her. But by the time I found her, it was too late. They'd killed her, made me watch. Oh my God, Dante, that's why I kept you at arm's length at first. Why I made it a contract instead of just asking you out. I thought if I could keep it business, keep it temporary, I could protect you better." He laughed bitterly. "But I fell in love with you anyway, and now history's repeating itself." Sophia's mind raced. This changed everything. The kidnapping last week suddenly made more sense. The security, the fear in Dante's eyes when he'd found her, the desperation in his voice when he'd said he loved her. "I'm not Maria," she said firmly. "I know that. No, listen to me. I'm not her. I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to be leverage." She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "You said you wanted to make me untouchable? Then do it. Teach me everything. Make me part of this world for real. Give me the tools to protect myself instead of trying to protect me." "Sophia, you don't know what you're asking. I'm asking to survive. I'm asking to be your equal, not your weakness." She kissed him hard. "I love you, which means I'm staying, which means I need to be able to hold my own. So stop trying to shelter me and start training me." He stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. "Okay," he said, "but you need to understand, once you're really in this world, there's no going back. You'll know things, see things, do things that will change you forever." "I know." "And you're still choosing this?" "I'm choosing you. Everything else comes with the territory." Dante pulled her against him, holding her like she was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most reckless." "Probably both." Yeah, they stood there for a while, wrapped in each other while the party continued inside. Finally, Dante pulled back. "We should go back in," he said. "People will talk if we're gone too long." "Let them talk." "Sophia, I'm serious. Let them wonder what we're doing out here. Let them worry about what you might be telling me." She smoothed his jacket. "Isn't that what you wanted? For them to see me as your partner?" A slow smile spread across Dante's face. "You really are learning." They returned to the party together, and Sophia noticed the shift immediately. People looked at them differently now. with more respect, more wariness. The whispers followed them like a wake. "Dante, darling." The voice was feminine, cultured, and laced with poison. Sophia turned to find a stunning woman in a red dress that looked like sin-made fabric. Her dark hair fell in waves. Her makeup was perfect, and her smile was a weapon. Isabella Marchetti. "Isabella," Dante said neutrally. "Aren't you going to introduce me to your new pet?" Isabella's eyes raked over Sophia with undisguised disdain. "Though I suppose introductions are unnecessary, everyone's talking about the waitress who captured the great Dante Moretti's heart. How quaint." "Sophia, this is Isabella Marchetti. Isabella, Sophia Castellano. Now you've met. Excuse us." Dante tried to steer Sophia away, but Isabella stepped into their path. "Not so fast. I'd like to have a chat with Sophia, woman to woman." Her smile sharpened. "Unless you're afraid to let her out of your sight. Worried she might learn something interesting?" It was a challenge. Sophia could see Dante calculating the politics of it. Refusing would make him look weak, protective, like he didn't trust Sophia to handle herself. Accepting meant leaving her alone with someone who clearly wanted to destroy her. "It's fine," Sophia said before Dante could respond. "I can handle a conversation." Dante looked at her, concern clear in his eyes. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Go do your business thing. I'll be fine." He hesitated, then nodded. "I'll be right over there if you need me." Isabella watched him go with satisfaction. Then she turned the full force of her attention on Sophia. "Let's get a drink," she said. "We have so much to discuss." They walked to the bar and Isabella ordered champagne for both of them. Sophia accepted the glass but didn't drink. She'd learned that much from Dante. Never accept drinks from enemies. "So," Isabella said, leaning against the bar with calculated casualness. "How long do you think this will last?" "I don't know what you mean." "Please, don't insult my intelligence. You're a phase, a distraction. Dante goes through women like other men go through suits." She sipped her champagne. "I give it another month before he gets bored and moves on to the next shiny thing." "Is that what happened with you?" Sophia asked sweetly. Isabella's smile turned cold. "I ended things with Dante. He was too intense, too controlling, too obsessed with proving he could protect what was his." She leaned closer. "Has he told you about Maria yet?" "Yes." That surprised her. "Really? He must be more serious about you than I thought." She recovered quickly. "Then you know what happens to women he loves. They die, messily, while he watches." Sophia forced herself not to react. "That won't happen to me." "That's what Maria thought too, right up until they slit her throat." Isabella's eyes glittered. "You're not special, Sophia. You're just new. And in Dante's world, new is a liability. The moment his enemies figure out he cares about you, really cares, you're dead. Just like Maria. Just like anyone foolish enough to love him." "Are you trying to scare me?" "I'm trying to save you. Get out now while you still can. Take whatever money he's given you and disappear. Start over somewhere far away from here, because if you stay, you will end up dead." "That's not a threat. It's a fact." Sophia set down her untouched champagne. "I appreciate the concern, really, but I'm not going anywhere." "Then you're a fool." "Maybe. But I'd rather be a fool in love than a bitter woman who couldn't hold on to what she had." Sophia smiled. "Enjoy your evening, Isabella, and try not to choke on your jealousy. It's not a good look." She walked away before Isabella could respond, her heart hammering but her head high. She found Dante talking to a group of men, and when he saw her approach, relief flooded his face. "How did it go?" he asked quietly. "She tried to scare me. Told me I was going to end up like Maria." Dante's expression darkened. "I'll handle her." "No, I handled her, and she knows it." Sophia took his hand. "Can we go home now? I think I've proven myself enough for one night." "More than enough." He made their excuses to the men he'd been talking to and guided Sophia toward the exit. They were almost to the door when someone grabbed Sophia's arm. She spun, instinct screaming danger, to find a man she didn't recognize. He was young, maybe mid-20s, with wild eyes and the smell of alcohol on his breath. "You're her," he slurred. "You're the one fucking Dante Moretti." Dante moved like lightning, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it until he let go of Sophia with a yelp. "Touch her again and lose the hand," Dante said quietly. "I just wanted to talk. Walk away. Now." The man stumbled back and security materialized to escort him out. Dante turned to Sophia, his hands gentle as he checked her arm. Did he hurt you? No, I'm fine. Just startled. We're leaving. Dante's voice left no room for argument. The car ride home was silent. Sophia could feel the tension radiating off Dante, the barely controlled rage that had been building all night. When they got to the penthouse, he poured himself a drink and stood by the windows, staring out at the city. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what? For bringing you into this, for exposing you to people like Isabella and Victor and drunk idiots who think they can put their hands on you. He drained his glass. For making you a target. Sophia crossed the room and took the empty glass from his hand. Stop apologizing. I chose this, remember? You didn't choose this. Not really. You chose to help me out of desperation, and I took advantage of that. I made you fall in love with me, knowing exactly how dangerous it would be. You didn't make me do anything. I fell in love with you on my own. She put her hands on his chest, felt his heart racing. And yes, tonight was terrifying. Yes, Isabella tried to get in my head. Yes, some drunk asshole grabbed me, but I'm still here. I'm still choosing you, so stop trying to push me away and just accept that I'm staying. Dante looked at her for a long moment. Then he kissed her, and it was different from before. Deeper, more desperate, like he was trying to prove something to both of them. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, but you've got me anyway. They stood there in the darkness, holding each other, while the city hummed below them. And for a moment, Sophia let herself believe everything would be okay, that love was enough, that they could survive whatever came next. She didn't know that in 2 weeks she'd discover something that would change everything. She didn't know that her body was already changing, carrying a secret that would make her even more of a target. She didn't know that the worst was yet to come. But for now, wrapped in Dante's arms, she was happy. And that would have to be enough. The nausea hit Sophia on a Tuesday morning, sudden and violent enough to send her running for the bathroom. She barely made it before her stomach emptied itself. When the wave passed, she sat on the cool tile floor, trembling and confused. Food poisoning, she thought. Or maybe the flu. But it happened again Wednesday. And Thursday. And by Friday morning, when she was kneeling over the toilet for the 4th day in a row, a different possibility crept into her mind, one that made her blood run cold. She couldn't be. They'd been careful, mostly careful. There had been that night 2 weeks ago when they'd gotten caught up in the moment, when neither of them had been thinking clearly, when passion had overridden common sense. Sophia sat on the bathroom floor, her mind racing through dates and symptoms, the exhaustion she'd been attributing to stress, the way her breasts had been tender, the fact that her period was, she counted back, 5 days late. No. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when she was just figuring out how to survive in Dante's world. Not when being his girlfriend already made her a target. Being pregnant would make her a nuclear weapon pointed directly at his heart. Sophia forced herself to stand, to wash her face, to look at herself in the mirror. She looked pale, scared, young. Too young to be dealing with this. She needed to know for sure. Dante had already left for a morning meeting, which gave her time. Sophia dressed quickly, pulled on sunglasses and a hat, ridiculous disguises that probably made her more conspicuous, and headed out. She was hyper-aware of the security detail Dante kept on her, the subtle presence of men who blended into crowds but never let her out of sight. She couldn't buy a pregnancy test with them watching. They'd report back to Dante immediately. Sophia ducked into a coffee shop, ordered a latte she had no intention of drinking, and slipped out the back exit while her guard was distracted at the front. Her heart hammered as she walked 3 blocks to a pharmacy she'd never been to before. The pregnancy tests were in aisle 7. Sophia grabbed 3 different brands with shaking hands, paid cash, and stuffed them in her purse. She was out the door in under 5 minutes, already texting her security that she'd gotten turned around and was heading home. They met her 2 blocks from the penthouse, and if they suspected anything, they didn't show it. Back in the apartment, Sophia locked herself in the bathroom and stared at the boxes. 3 tests. 3 chances to prove her fears were unfounded. 3 opportunities for her world to tilt sideways. She took all 3. Then she waited. The longest 3 minutes of her life ticked by on her phone timer. Sophia sat on the edge of the bathtub, head in her hands, trying not to think about what this would mean, what it would change, how Dante would react. The timer went off. Sophia looked at the tests. All 3 were positive. She was pregnant with Dante Moretti's child. The bathroom spun. Sophia gripped the edge of the sink, trying to breathe, trying to process, trying to figure out what the hell she was supposed to do now. Tell him, obviously. She had to tell him. This wasn't something she could hide, wasn't something she should hide. They'd promised each other honesty, but the thought of seeing his face when she told him, the fear, the anger, the disappointment, made her want to throw up again. Sophia gathered the tests, wrapped them in tissue, and hid them at the bottom of the bathroom trash. Then she went to the bedroom and sat on the bed, staring at nothing, while her entire future rearranged itself around this new reality. She was still sitting there an hour later when Dante came home. "Sophia?" His voice carried from the living room. "You here?" She couldn't make herself answer. Footsteps approached. Dante appeared in the doorway, concern already creasing his face. "What's wrong? Are you sick? You look—" "I'm pregnant." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. Blunt and unvarnished and brutal in their simplicity. Dante froze. Actually froze, like someone had pressed pause on him. His expression went completely blank. "What?" he said finally. "I'm pregnant. I took 3 tests. They were all positive." Sophia's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I know this isn't what we planned. I know the timing is terrible. I know—" "Stop." Dante crossed the room and sat beside her on the bed. His hands were shaking. "How long have you known?" "An hour? Maybe less. I just took the tests." "And you're sure?" 3 tests, Dante. All positive." He stood up, walked to the window, ran both hands through his hair. Sophia watched him, trying to read his reaction and failing completely. Was he angry, scared, regretful? "Say something," she whispered. "I'm trying to process." His voice was tight. "I'm trying to figure out how to keep you both safe." "Both." He'd said both. Not just her. Both. "You're not angry?" Sophia asked. Dante turned to look at her, and his expression was complicated. Fear and wonder and something that looked almost like joy, all tangled together. "Angry? No. Terrified? Absolutely." He came back to the bed, knelt in front of her, took her hands. "Sophia, do you understand what this means? You're carrying my child. That makes you the most valuable target in this entire city. Every enemy I have will see you as leverage, as a way to destroy me." "I know. And despite that, despite knowing how dangerous this makes everything, I can't help but feel—" His voice broke. "I never thought I'd have this. A family, someone to build a future with. After Maria, I thought that chance was gone forever." Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. "So, you're not upset?" "I'm scared out of my mind, but upset? No." He reached up, cupped her face, wiped her tears with his thumbs. "We're having a baby. How could I be upset about that?" Sophia threw her arms around his neck and sobbed. Relief and fear and hormones and stress all poured out of her while Dante held her, rocking her gently, murmuring reassurances against her hair. "We'll figure this out," he said. "I'll keep you safe. Both of you, I swear it." "How? Your enemies already tried to kidnap me once. What happens when they find out I'm pregnant?" "They won't find out. Not yet. Not until we've made arrangements." Dante pulled back to look at her. "We need to be smart about this. Strategic. No one can know until we're ready. How long can we hide it? A few months, maybe. Long enough to shore up security. Long enough to eliminate the biggest threats." His jaw tightened. "Long enough for me to make it clear that anyone who touches you dies screaming." The violence in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it was oddly comforting. Dante would protect them, whatever it took. "What about a doctor?" Sophia asked. "I need to see someone. Make sure everything's okay. I'll arrange it. Someone discreet. Someone who won't talk." He helped her stand. "In the meantime, you need to rest. Take care of yourself. No more sneaking out past security." "How did you They told me you gave them the slip this morning. We'll discuss that later." But his tone was gentle, not angry. "Right now, I just need you to promise me you'll be careful, that you won't take risks, that you'll let me protect you." "I promise." He kissed her forehead, then her lips, soft and reverent. "We're having a baby," he said again, like he couldn't quite believe it. "We're having a baby," Sophia echoed. And despite everything, the danger, the fear, the uncertainty, she smiled. The next few weeks passed in a strange haze of secrecy and preparation. Dante brought in a doctor he trusted, an older woman named Dr. Chen who confirmed what the pregnancy tests had already told them. 8 weeks along. Due date in early spring. Everything looked healthy so far. But you need to take it easy, Dr. Chen said, giving Sophia a stern look. No stress, proper nutrition, plenty of rest. This is a high-risk pregnancy given your circumstances. My circumstances? Sophia asked. Dr. Chen glanced at Dante, then back at Sophia. Let's just say that the kind of stress that comes with Mr. Moretti's lifestyle isn't ideal for a pregnant woman. You'll need to be extra careful. After she left, Dante became obsessively protective. He doubled Sophia's security detail, had the penthouse swept for bugs weekly, insisted she stay home unless absolutely necessary. The freedom she'd been enjoying evaporated overnight. I'm pregnant, not made of glass, Sophia said one night when Dante tried to carry her groceries for her. You're carrying my child. That makes you precious. Let me take care of you. There's taking care and there's smothering. You're edging toward the latter. He set down the grocery bags and pulled her close. I can't lose you, either of you. I won't survive it. The raw fear in his voice stopped her protests. Sophia wrapped her arms around him and held on tight. You won't lose us, she promised. We're fighters. We're survivors, just like you. But keeping the pregnancy secret proved harder than either of them anticipated. Sophia's body was changing. Her clothes fit differently. Her appetite was erratic, and the exhaustion hit her like a truck some days. She had to start making excuses for skipping events, claiming headaches or fatigue. People noticed. You've been scarce lately, Isabella said at a charity luncheon Sophia couldn't avoid. They stood near the buffet, surrounded by women dripping in diamonds and judgment. Trouble in paradise? Just tired. Dante keeps me up late. Sophia smiled sweetly. I'm sure he does, though you look a bit different. Have you gained weight? Sophia's blood went cold. Excuse me? No offense, darling. Just an observation. You look softer, less sharp. Isabella's eyes narrowed. Unless there's a reason for that? The only reason is I'm finally eating properly instead of working 3 jobs. Sophia kept her voice level. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have somewhere to be. She walked away before Isabella could probe further, her heart racing. Had she noticed? Was it that obvious? When Sophia told Dante about the exchange that night, his expression turned grim. We need to announce it, he said. What? You said we should keep it quiet. That was before Isabella started sniffing around. She's smart, vindictive. If she suspects and tells the wrong people before we're ready, you'll be vulnerable. He paced the living room. We need to control the narrative. Make the announcement on our terms. Show strength, not secrecy. How? There's a gala next month, big one. Everyone who matters will be there. We announce it then, publicly, with you at my side looking radiant and protected. He turned to face her. We make it clear that you're not just my girlfriend. You're the mother of my child, and anyone who threatens you threatens my legacy. Sophia's hand instinctively went to her still flat stomach. That's putting a target on us. The target's already there. This way we control how people aim. She wanted to argue, wanted to say it was too risky, too soon, too dangerous. But Dante was right. Hiding hadn't kept her safe before. Maybe visibility would. Okay, she agreed. 1 month, we announce it at the gala. Dante kissed her, fierce and possessive. I won't let anything happen to you, I swear it. But the universe, apparently, had other plans. 3 days before the gala, Sophia's world imploded. She was shopping for the event, something she'd insisted on doing herself despite Dante's protests, when her security detail's phones all went off at once. She saw them tense, saw hands move toward concealed weapons, saw the lead guard, Marcus, move toward her with urgent purpose. We need to leave. Now. What's wrong? Credible threat. Someone leaked your location. We need to get you back to the penthouse immediately. Sophia's heart jumped into her throat. Is Dante? He's been informed. Let's go. They moved quickly, Marcus and 2 other guards surrounding her as they headed for the exit. The street outside looked normal. Pedestrians, traffic, afternoon sunshine. But Marcus was scanning rooftops, doorways, anything that could hide a threat. They were 10 feet from the car when a van screeched to a halt beside them. The doors flew open. Men poured out, 4 of them, armed, wearing masks. Marcus shoved Sophia behind him, drawing his weapon, but he wasn't fast enough. Gunshots cracked through the air. Marcus went down. The other guards returned fire, and suddenly the street was chaos, screaming pedestrians, bullets, blood on the pavement. Hands grabbed Sophia from behind. She screamed, fought, tried to remember everything Dante had taught her about self-defense. She got an elbow into someone's ribs, heard a grunt of pain, then something hard connected with the side of her head, and the world went dark. Sophia woke to darkness and the smell of mildew. Her head throbbed where she'd been hit, and when she tried to move, she discovered her hands were zip-tied behind her back. She was sitting on a concrete floor in what looked like a warehouse, empty except for some rusted machinery and her, and the man sitting across from her, watching. Victor Romano. "Ah, she's awake," Victor said pleasantly. "Welcome back, Sophia. I hope my men weren't too rough with you." Sophia's mind raced. She needed to stall, needed to give Dante time to find her, needed to protect the baby, the secret that could get her killed if Victor knew. "What do you want?" she asked, keeping her voice steady. "What I've always wanted. Dante's territory, his operations, his power." Victor stood and walked toward her. "And you're going to help me get it. He won't negotiate with you." "Oh, I think he will. See, I know something interesting. Something your lover has been keeping very quiet." He crouched down in front of her, and his smile was cruel. "You're pregnant, aren't you?" Sophia's blood turned to ice. "I don't know what— Don't insult my intelligence. I have people everywhere, including Dr. Chen's office." He laughed at her expression. "Did you really think you could keep it secret? That no one would notice? That no one would talk? If you hurt me, Dante will destroy you. If I hurt you, Dante will give me whatever I ask for to get you back alive. That's the beauty of it. You're not just his girlfriend, you're carrying his heir, the child he never thought he'd have. He'll burn his entire empire to the ground before he lets anything happen to you." Sophia's mind raced. She needed to think, needed to find a way out of this. But her head was pounding and her hands were tied, and she was terrified not just for herself, but for the tiny life growing inside her. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Make a call. Tell Dante I have his precious Sophia and his unborn child. Watch him crumble." Victor pulled out his phone. "Any last words before I ruin his life?" "Yes. You made a mistake." "What mistake?" "Thinking Dante cares more about me than about revenge." Sophia forced herself to smile. "He loves me, sure, but he's also the most ruthless man in this city. And when he finds out you took me, he won't negotiate. He'll hunt you down and make you suffer in ways you can't imagine. Taking me didn't give you leverage, Victor. It signed your death warrant." Victor's smile faltered. Just for a second, doubt flickered across his face. Then he recovered. "We'll see about that." He made the call. Dante answered on the first ring. "Where is she?" "Safe. For now. But we need to have a conversation about the future of this city." "If you've hurt her, she's fine. A little scared, but unharmed. For now." Victor's voice hardened. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to transfer control of your Manhattan operations to me. All of it. Territory, businesses, connections, everything. And in exchange, I'll return Sophia and your baby to you." Silence on the other end. Then Dante's voice, cold as death. "You know about the pregnancy." "I know everything, and I know you'll do whatever it takes to keep them safe. So here's my offer, your empire for their lives. You have 24 hours to decide." "Let me talk to her." Victor held out the phone to Sophia. She leaned forward, her voice shaking but determined. "Dante, don't give him anything. I'm okay. The baby's okay. Don't—" Victor pulled the phone away. "Sweet, isn't she? Still trying to be brave. But we both know you can't risk calling my bluff, not when it's your child at stake." "You have 12 hours, Dante said. "Then I'm coming for her. And when I find you, Victor, I'm going to make you beg for death." Victor hung up and smiled at Sophia. "Well, that went well?" Sophia's hands were shaking behind her back, but she kept her expression neutral. "You really think this will work? That Dante will just hand over everything?" "He will, because he's weak, because he let himself care about something more than power, and that weakness is going to cost him everything." But Victor didn't understand Dante the way Sophia did. Didn't understand that Dante's love wasn't a weakness. It was the most dangerous weapon he had. The hours crawled by. Victor's men came and went, bringing updates that Sophia couldn't hear. She was moved to a different part of the warehouse, a small room with a concrete floor and a single light bulb. They cut the zip ties but locked the door. At least she could move now. Sophia paced the tiny space, trying to stay calm, trying to protect the baby, trying to have faith that Dante would come. And he did. The explosion shook the entire warehouse. Sophia was thrown to the floor as the door to her room blew inward. Through the smoke and chaos, she saw him. Dante Moretti, covered in blood that probably wasn't his, holding a gun like it was an extension of his body. Behind him were at least a dozen men, all armed, all looking like they'd walked through hell to get here. Sophia! Dante's eyes found her through the smoke. Relief and rage warred on his face. I'm okay! The baby's okay! Gunfire erupted outside the room. Dante crossed to her in 3 strides, pulling her against him with one arm while keeping his gun trained on the door with the other. Can you walk? He asked. Yes. Stay behind me. Don't stop moving until we're in the car. Understand? She nodded. They moved through the warehouse like a military operation. Dante's men had secured the building, but there were still pockets of resistance. Sophia kept her head down, following Dante's instructions, trying not to look at the bodies on the floor or the blood on the walls. They were almost to the exit when Victor appeared. He looked wild, desperate, holding a gun that shook in his hands. Blood ran down his face from a cut on his forehead. You couldn't just give me what I wanted, he said, aiming the gun at Dante. You couldn't just walk away. You took what's mine, Dante said quietly. Did you really think I'd let you live? I'm not going down alone. Victor's gun swung toward Sophia. If I can't have your empire, you can't have your family. Everything happened at once. Dante shoved Sophia behind him. Victor's finger tightened on the trigger. A gunshot cracked through the air. But it wasn't Victor who fired. One of Dante's men, the same guard who'd been with Sophia the day she was taken, had shot Victor from the side. The crime boss dropped, his gun clattering across the floor, a red stain spreading across his chest. Dante didn't even look at him. He turned to Sophia, hands running over her frantically, checking for injuries. Did he hurt you? Did anyone touch you? I'm fine, we're fine. Sophia's hands went to her stomach protectively. Is he dead? Not yet, but he will be. Dante's voice was ice. He turned to Victor, who was gasping on the floor, drowning in his own blood. You made a mistake. You thought my love made me weak, but it made me unstoppable, because now I have something worth burning the world for. He didn't shoot him, didn't finish him, just walked away, leaving Victor to bleed out alone while he led Sophia to safety. The car ride back to the penthouse was silent. Sophia couldn't stop shaking. Dante held her the entire way, one hand on her stomach, feeling for movement that wouldn't come for months yet. I thought I lost you, he whispered. When they took you, I thought... His voice broke. I'm here. We're both here. I killed 6 men getting to you. I would have killed 60, 600, however many it took. Sophia believed him. Back at the penthouse, Dr. Chen was waiting. She checked Sophia thoroughly, then smiled. Strong heartbeat. No signs of distress. You and baby are both fine. The relief in Dante's expression was almost heartbreaking. After Doctor Chen left, they lay in bed together, Dante's hand resting on Sophia's stomach like he was trying to protect their child through sheer force of will. We're announcing it tomorrow, he said, at the gala. Everyone needs to know that you're mine, and you're carrying my child, and anyone who threatens you will die screaming. Dante, no arguments. We're done hiding. Done being vulnerable. Tomorrow, the entire city learns that Sofia Castellano is untouchable. And Sophia, exhausted and traumatized but alive, could only nod. The war for their survival had just begun, but at least they were fighting it together. The morning of the gala, Sophia woke to find Dante already dressed, standing by the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low and dangerous, the tone he used when giving orders that would end careers or lives. I don't care what it takes. I want every entrance covered, every guest vetted. If someone so much as looks at her wrong, I want to know about it. He paused, listening. No, not just security. I want a message sent. Today, everyone learns what happens when you threaten what's mine. He hung up and turned to find Sophia watching him. Couldn't sleep? She asked. Too much to arrange. He crossed to the bed, sat on the edge, brushed hair from her face. How are you feeling? Nervous? Scared? Ready for this to be over? After tonight, it will be. Once we make the announcement, once everyone knows, you'll be too visible to touch. Harming you would start a war no one can afford. Sophia wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that visibility would equal safety, but she'd learned enough about Dante's world to know that nothing was ever that simple. What if it doesn't work? She asked quietly. What if announcing the pregnancy just makes me a bigger target? Dante's hand moved to her stomach, still flat, but carrying their secret. Then I eliminate every threat until there's no one left stupid enough to try. I've already started. What does that mean? It means Victor's organization doesn't exist anymore. I absorbed what was useful and destroyed the rest. It means I've reached out to every major player in the city and made it clear that you are under my absolute protection. It means... He stopped, jaw tightening. It means I've done things I'm not proud of to make sure you're safe. Sophia sat up, took his face in her hands. I don't need you to be a saint, Dante. I need you to keep us alive. I will. I swear it. The kiss they shared was soft and desperate, a promise and a prayer wrapped into one. Hours later, Sophia stood in front of the mirror while Elise and her team worked their magic. The dress they'd chosen was stunning, deep emerald silk that somehow made her look regal rather than pregnant, though her body was starting to show subtle changes. The neckline was elegant, the fit perfect, and when she moved, the fabric caught the light like water. You look like a queen, Elise said, stepping back to admire her work. I feel like I'm going into battle. In a way you are, but you'll win. You have Dante and you have something none of those other women have. What's that? His child. His future. That makes you untouchable. Elise's smile was sharp. They'll hate you for it, but they'll also fear you. Use that. When Sophia emerged from the bedroom, Dante's reaction was worth every minute of preparation. He stared at her like she'd stolen his breath, his dark eyes moving over her with undisguised hunger and pride. You're devastating, he said quietly. Is that good? It's perfect. You're perfect. He offered his arm. Ready to change everything? No, but let's do it anyway. The gala was held at the Plaza Hotel, in a ballroom that looked like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, flowers everywhere in shades of white and gold. The guest list read like a who's who of New York's elite. Politicians, business moguls, socialites, and underneath it all, the hidden network of people who actually ran the city. Dante's people. They arrived fashionably late, which Sophia was learning was a power move. Let everyone else gather first. Let them wonder if you're coming. Then make an entrance that stops conversation. It worked. The moment they stepped into the ballroom, heads turned. Conversations died mid-sentence. Every eye in the room fixed on them, on Dante in his perfectly tailored tuxedo, and on Sophia in her emerald dress, her hand resting on his arm like she belonged there. Showtime, Dante murmured. They moved through the crowd and Sophia felt the weight of every gaze. Some looked curious, some envious, some openly hostile. She saw Isabella across the room, her expression twisted with something that looked like rage. Saw politicians who'd probably taken Dante's money standing with their wives and mistresses. Saw the machinery of power and corruption and wealth that kept the city running. And she realized with startling clarity that she was part of it now, not a visitor, not a temporary guest, part of the machine itself. Dante! A man approached, older, distinguished, with silver hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Wonderful to see you, and this must be the famous Sophia. Senator Walsh, Dante said smoothly, allow me to introduce Sophia Castellano properly, my partner, in every sense of the word. The senator's eyebrows rose. Partner. That's quite a designation. It's an accurate one. Dante's hand settled on Sophia's waist, protective and possessive. Which brings me to an announcement I'll be making later this evening. I wanted you to be among the first to know. Oh? Sophia is carrying my child. We're expecting in the spring. The senator's face went through a rapid series of expressions. Surprise, calculation, forced congratulations. Well, that is news. Congratulations to you both. He moved on quickly, and Sophia watched him beeline for a group of other men, saw the urgent whispered conversation that followed. That was deliberate, she said to Dante. Very. Walsh is the biggest gossip in this room. By the time dinner is served, everyone will know. And when I make the formal announcement, it won't be a surprise. It'll be a confirmation of power. They continued through the crowd, Dante repeating the same information to carefully selected people. Each time, Sophia watched the news ripple outward like a stone thrown in water. By the time they sat down for dinner, the entire room was buzzing. Isabella appeared at their table before the first course was served. Pregnant, she said without preamble, her voice dripping venom. How wonderfully domestic. Isabella, Dante said coolly, enjoying the evening? Immensely, though I can't help but wonder if you've thought this through. She turned her attention to Sophia. Do you have any idea what you've done? Getting pregnant by Dante Moretti? You've painted a target on that baby before it's even born. Careful, Dante said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. I'm just being honest. Children of powerful men don't have happy lives, Sophia. They grow up surrounded by danger, never knowing who to trust, always wondering if someone's going to use them for leverage. Is that really what you want for your child? Sophia stood up, meeting Isabella's eyes with steel in her own. My child will grow up loved and protected. They'll have two parents who would burn the world down to keep them safe. And they'll know exactly who they can trust because, unlike you, we don't surround ourselves with people we need to fear. Isabella's face flushed. You little... That's enough. Dante stood, his presence filling the space between them. You've had your say, Isabella. Now walk away before you embarrass yourself further. For a moment, it looked like Isabella might push, but something in Dante's expression made her think better of it. She spun on her heel and stalked away, radiating fury. Sophia sat back down, her heart racing. That was brave, Dante said quietly. That was stupid. I just made an enemy. You already had that enemy. You just stopped pretending otherwise. He took her hand under the table. But you're right about one thing. She's dangerous when she's angry. We'll need to watch her. The dinner progressed through multiple courses, each one more elaborate than the last. Sophia tried to eat, tried to look calm, tried to ignore the stares and whispers that followed her everywhere. Her hand kept drifting to her stomach, a protective gesture she couldn't seem to stop. Finally, after dessert was cleared, Dante stood. The room quieted immediately, all attention shifting to him. Thank you all for coming tonight, he began, his voice carrying easily through the space. As many of you know, these gatherings serve multiple purposes. Yes, we're here to celebrate and support important causes, but we're also here to acknowledge the relationships and partnerships that make our city run. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, which is why I wanted to take this opportunity to make an announcement. Some of you may have already heard rumors, but I prefer to control my own narrative. He reached down, took Sophia's hand, and pulled her to her feet beside him. Sofia Castellano is not just my companion, she's my partner, my future. And in the spring, she'll be the mother of my child. The room erupted. Gasps, whispers, a smattering of applause that grew louder as people processed the information. Sophia felt her face flush, felt hundreds of eyes examining her, but Dante's hand was steady on hers. I'm sharing this news tonight because I want to be clear about something, Dante continued, his voice hardening. Sophia is under my absolute protection. She is mine, and anyone who threatens her, who harms her, who even thinks about using her against me. He paused, letting the silence stretch. Well, I think we all understand what happens to people who make that mistake. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise, and every person in that room understood exactly what it meant. The applause that followed was louder this time, more genuine. People began approaching their table, offering congratulations that ranged from sincere to calculating. Sophia shook hands and accepted well wishes, playing her part while Dante orchestrated the whole thing like a conductor leading an orchestra. But underneath the celebration, she could feel the tension, could see the people who weren't applauding, could sense the calculations happening in rooms she'd never see, by people deciding if this news changed their plans or created new opportunities. They left the gala 2 hours later, after Dante had worked the room and made sure everyone who mattered had personally acknowledged the announcement. In the car, Sophia finally let herself relax, let the tension drain from her shoulders. That was exhausting, she said. That was necessary. Dante pulled her against him. As of tonight, you're not just my girlfriend, you're the mother of my heir. That changes everything. Does it really make me safer? Yes, because now harming you doesn't just mean crossing me, it means threatening my legacy. No one in their right mind would risk that. Sophia wanted to believe him. But she'd learned that plenty of people in Dante's world weren't in their right minds. The next few weeks proved her suspicion correct. The announcement had created ripples, and some of those ripples turned into waves. There were 3 attempts on Sophia's life in the month following the gala. The first was a car that tried to run her down while she was walking with security. Her guards got her out of the way just in time. The second was poisoned food delivered to the penthouse, caught by Dante's taster before it reached her. The third was a sniper who tried to take a shot while she was leaving a doctor's appointment. The bullet missed by inches. Each time, Dante's response was swift and brutal. Organizations disappeared overnight. People who'd been powerful yesterday were found dead today. The message was clear. Touch Sophia and die. But it was taking a toll. Sophia barely left the penthouse anymore. She was surrounded by guards constantly. She jumped at shadows. And the stress was affecting the pregnancy. Doctor. Chen had already warned her about her blood pressure. This isn't sustainable, Sophia said one night. after another nightmare about bullets and blood and losing the baby. I can't live like this for 6 more months. Dante looked haggard. He'd been sleeping even less than her, orchestrating a war against anyone foolish enough to threaten his family. What do you suggest? He asked. Leave. Get out of the city. Go somewhere safe until the baby's born. Running makes us look weak. Staying makes us targets. Sophia crossed to him, took his hands. Dante, I know this isn't what you want. I know it goes against every instinct you have, but we need to think about the baby, about actually surviving long enough to become parents. He was quiet for a long time, staring out at the city he'd fought so hard to control. I know a place, he said finally. Upstate, a property I bought years ago as a backup. Secure, isolated. We could disappear there for a while. How long is a while? However long it takes. 4 months? 5. Until the baby comes and the dust settles. He turned to look at her. But Sophia, if we do this, if we leave, I'm giving up territory, giving up control. People will try to move in, take what's mine, and I'll have to fight to get it back. Better to fight for territory than bury me and the baby. He flinched like she'd struck him. Don't say that. It's true though, isn't it? Every day we stay here is another chance for someone to succeed where the others failed, and eventually, someone will. She put his hand on her stomach, which was finally starting to show a real curve. We can rebuild your empire later. We can't rebuild this. Dante's hand spread across her belly, and she saw his expression crack, saw the fear he'd been hiding, the terror that he'd lose another woman he loved, another chance at family. Okay, he whispered. Okay, we'll go. I'll arrange everything. They left New York 3 days later in the middle of the night, with only a handful of trusted people knowing where they were going. The property upstate turned out to be a sprawling estate in the mountains, beautiful and remote and surrounded by enough security to stop a small army. This is your backup plan? Sophia asked, staring at the mansion. I like to be prepared. They settled into a life that felt surreal after the chaos of the city. No events, no threats, no constant tension, just quiet days and peaceful nights, watching Sophia's belly grow, feeling the baby kick, planning for a future that suddenly felt possible. Dante transformed in that place. Away from the pressure and violence and constant demands, he softened, smiled more, laughed. He spent hours reading pregnancy books, asking Dr. Chen questions during her weekly visits, preparing the nursery they'd set up in one of the spare bedrooms. You're nesting, Sophia teased one afternoon, watching him rearrange baby furniture for the 3rd time. I'm preparing. You're obsessing. Can you blame me? I never thought I'd have this, a family, a chance to be a father. I want everything perfect. Sophia crossed to him, wrapped her arms around him from behind, rested her chin on his shoulder. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be ours. The months passed in a haze of preparation and anticipation. Sophia's belly grew round and heavy. The baby, a girl, they'd learned, kicked constantly, especially at night when Dante would talk to her, his voice soft and full of wonder. She's going to be spoiled rotten, Sophia said one night as Dante sang Italian lullabies to her stomach. She's going to be loved. That's different. Is it? Completely. I was spoiled once. Had everything money could buy, but no one who actually cared. Our daughter will have both. Money and love, security and freedom, everything I never had. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Hormones made her cry at everything lately, but these were happy tears. Because despite everything, despite the danger and the fear and the absolute insanity of their situation, they were building something real, something worth fighting for. The labor started on a cold March morning, 3 weeks before her due date. Sophia woke to contractions that stole her breath, and Dante immediately went into crisis mode. Dr. Chen had moved into the estate 2 weeks prior for exactly this scenario, and she arrived in the bedroom looking calm and professional. How far apart are the contractions? She asked. 5 minutes, Sophia gasped. Maybe less. Then we don't have much time. Dante, I need you to help me get her to the medical room. They'd converted a bedroom into a fully equipped delivery room, just in case. Sophia had laughed when Dante insisted on it, called him paranoid. Now she was grateful. The next 12 hours were a blur of pain and pressure, and Dante's voice in her ear telling her she was strong, she was brave. She could do this. Dr. Chen worked with calm efficiency, monitoring both Sophia and the baby, making sure everything progressed safely. I can't do this, Sophia sobbed at one point, exhausted and terrified. Yes, you can, Dante said fiercely. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You survived my world. You survived kidnapping. You can survive this. What if something goes wrong? Nothing's going wrong. Look at me, Sophia. Look at me. He waited until she met his eyes. You're going to meet our daughter today. You're going to hold her and love her, and we're going to build the life we've been dreaming about. Together. Do you believe me? Yes? Then push, fight, show her how strong her mother is. Sophia pushed, and at 8:47 p.m. on March 15th, their daughter entered the world screaming, red-faced and furious and absolutely perfect. She's healthy, Dr. Chen said, placing the baby on Sophia's chest. 10 fingers, 10 toes, good lungs. Congratulations. Sophia stared at the tiny life in her arms, overwhelmed by a wave of love so intense it hurt. The baby had Dante's dark hair and eyes that were still unfocused but already seemed to see everything. She's beautiful, Sophia whispered. Dante stood frozen, staring at his daughter like he couldn't believe she was real. His face was wet with tears he wasn't bothering to hide. Can I? His voice cracked. Can I hold her? Sophia carefully transferred the baby to Dante's arms, and watching him, this dangerous, powerful man, hold their daughter with hands that shook, his expression full of wonder and terror and overwhelming love, was the most beautiful thing Sophia had ever seen. Hi, Dante whispered to the baby. Hi, little one. I'm your dad, and I promise you, I swear on everything I am, that no one will ever hurt you. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you're safe and loved and happy. You're my whole world now, you and your mother, my whole world. The baby wrapped her tiny hand around his finger, and Dante broke, just completely broke, sobbing while holding his daughter, all the fear and pain and loss of his past pouring out in the presence of this new life, this second chance he'd never thought he'd get. Sophia watched them through her own tears and knew that everything, all the danger, all the fear, all the impossible choices, had been worth it for this moment. They named her Elena, after Dante's mother, and true to his word, Dante dedicated himself to keeping her safe. They stayed at the estate for 2 more months while Dante quietly rebuilt his empire from a distance. He'd lost territory during their absence, but he'd also gained something more valuable, perspective. He started shifting his operations, moving money into legitimate businesses, creating distance between his family and the violent parts of his world. I can't change what I am overnight, he told Sophia one night while Elena slept between them. But I can change what I do, for her, for you. I can build something that won't get you killed. What does that mean? It means I'm getting out, slowly, carefully, but definitely. I've already started transferring the illegal operations to people I trust, keeping only the legitimate businesses. In a year, maybe 2, I'll be clean. He looked at their daughter. She deserves a father who can take her to school without worrying about enemies, who can attend her dance recitals without bodyguards, who can be present without constantly looking over his shoulder. Is that possible? Can you really just walk away? I don't know, but I'm going to try. When Elena was 3 months old, they returned to New York. The penthouse had been renovated, with a nursery that looked like something from a magazine and security that could stop an invasion. And true to Dante's plan, his world had shifted. He was still powerful, still connected, but the violence had faded to rumors instead of reality. People respected him, feared him, but they also knew that Dante Moretti had found something more important than power. And anyone smart enough to survive in his world understood that made him more dangerous, not less. Sophia settled into motherhood with surprising ease. Elena was a happy baby, all smiles and curiosity. And watching Dante with their daughter, the way he'd stop important meetings to take her call, the way he'd read to her for hours, the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in existence, filled Sophia with a contentment she'd never imagined possible. 1 year after Elena's birth, Dante made good on his promise. He officially retired from all illegal operations, announced he was focusing on his legitimate businesses and his family, and threw a party to celebrate. At that party, standing in the same ballroom where they'd announced the pregnancy, Dante raised his glass. A year ago, I stood in this room and told you that Sofia Castellano was carrying my child, that she was under my protection, that threatening her meant war. He looked at Sofia, who stood beside him holding Elena. What I didn't say then was how completely she'd changed me, how becoming a father would rearrange every priority I'd ever had, how loving them would give me something I'd been missing my entire life, purpose beyond power. He turned back to the crowd. I'm announcing my retirement from the operations that made my name. I'm stepping back from the world that nearly destroyed me. And I'm dedicating myself to the family that saved me. He raised his glass higher. To new beginnings, to second chances, to the women who make us better than we ever thought we could be. The crowd toasted, and Sophia saw genuine respect in many faces, saw understanding, saw acknowledgement that Dante Moretti had found something worth more than empire. After the party, after Elena was asleep and they were finally alone, Dante pulled Sophia onto the balcony. Do you regret it? He asked. Any of it? The danger, the fear, the absolute insanity of falling in love with me? Sophia looked at the city spread out below them, the same city where she'd once been invisible, drowning in debt, working 3 jobs just to survive. She thought about the terrified girl who'd gotten into a car with a stranger on a rainy night, who'd signed a contract that changed everything, who'd fallen in love despite knowing better. No, she said honestly, I don't regret any of it, because it brought me here. To you. To Elena. To a life I never dreamed was possible. Even the kidnapping? Even that. Because it showed me how far you'd go to protect us, how much we mean to you. She turned to face him fully. I was invisible before you, Dante. I was drowning and no one noticed. You saved me, in every way a person can be saved. You saved me too. You made me human again, made me remember why power matters, not for itself but for what it can protect. He kissed her then, deep and slow, while the city glittered around them and their daughter slept safely inside. 5 years later, Sophia stood in that same penthouse, watching Dante chase a laughing Elena through the living room. Their daughter was 5 now, bright and curious and completely unafraid, because she'd grown up surrounded by love and protection. She had no idea that her father had once been one of the most dangerous men in New York. To her, he was just daddy, who read her stories and let her paint his nails and attended every school event like it was the most important thing in the world. Sophia's hand drifted to her stomach, to the small bump that was just starting to show. Baby number 2, due in the fall. Another chance. Another blessing. Dante caught her eye across the room and smiled, that devastating smile that still made her heart skip. Elena climbed onto his shoulders, demanding to be taller, and he lifted her easily, spinning until she shrieked with laughter. This was their life now, not perfect, nothing ever was, but real. Built on love and sacrifice and the choice to fight for each other every single day. Sophia had started small, invisible, drowning in debt and desperation. Now she stood in a penthouse overlooking the city, watching the man she loved play with their daughter, carrying their second child. And she knew with absolute certainty that every risk had been worth it. She'd been scared that first night in the rain when Dante Moretti had offered her a deal that seemed too good to be true. Scared when she'd signed the contract. Scared when she'd fallen in love. Scared through every threat and kidnapping and moment of danger. But she'd been brave too. Brave enough to take a chance. Brave enough to fight. Brave enough to believe that sometimes the most dangerous choice could lead to the most beautiful life. And as Elena's laughter filled the penthouse and Dante's eyes promised her forever, Sophia knew that bravery had given her everything that mattered. She was no longer invisible. She was loved, protected, home. And that was worth every moment of fear it had taken to get here.